The Earth is dying because humans are killing it, and the only way to save humanity, according to the richest man in the world, Elon Musk, is for us to become a multi-planetary species, meaning it's time for us to go to Mars. To achieve this, Elon has dedicated a lot of his personal resources to ensuring that by 2029, 1 million people will be living comfortably in a self-sustaining city. Magnificent and enthralling, right? However, while the idea of leaving Earth and moving to a self-sustaining city on Mars is exciting, there are a lot of things that Musk is hiding from the world. So, in this video, we'll reveal to you some things you probably didn't know about going to Mars and why it's a pretty bad idea. So, Elon Musk says that going to Mars is paramount to the future of life itself because there's always some chance that something could go wrong on Earth. And to do this, he proposes, for a start, that 1 million people should be sent to Mars along with 100 million metric tons of supplies and materials, which would help them build this self-sustaining city on the red planet. To achieve this great crossing, all it's going to take is a fleet of 1,000 Starship rockets flying back and forth from Earth to Mars every 2 years, because the launch window for Mars only opens every 2 years. This sounds great and all, but think about the fact that the current SpaceX Starship can only carry about 100 people at one time, and if all the 1,000 space rockets happen to launch at the same time, then only 100,000 people will be able to get to Mars with a limited number of supplies every 2 years. Imagine how many years it'll take to carry 1 million people and 100 million metric tons of materials to build this so-called self-sustaining city. But that's not even a disadvantage because technology is advancing rapidly, so it's possible that before 2029 Elon would have created something that could carry more people, maybe even 1 million people at once. But why Mars? Why is it that whenever there's talk about colonizing another planet, it's always Mars and not our closest neighbor the Moon or even Venus or Saturn? We've got about 9 planets to choose from. Well, the simple fact is that we don't have another option. The Moon is quite close to us, but we certainly can't live there, and let's not even talk about the other planets, which are totally not habitable. And Mars is no different. However, the difference is that it has the potential for human survival, at least according to Elon, who believes that one day we can make Mars just like Earth. But is that even possible? Well, first things first, what makes Earth perfect for humans? The answer to that is everything. From the atmosphere to gravity, climate, and natural resources, all was made ready for humans to survive and grow. Think about how our skin blocks the right wavelengths, how our lungs tolerate the right gases, or even how our bones handle the right forces. And the fact is that anything more than a slight deviation from all these conditions will be catastrophic, which leads us to the question: what do we have to work with on Mars? First, let's look at the temperature. If you're going on a trip to Mars, you'd do well to grab a lot of winter clothes, especially very thick ones, because most of the time the planet is very cold, and I mean really cold. We're talking about a place that's almost always below 0 degrees, but it's not all that bad because sometimes the temperature can get up to 20 degrees Celsius, which is kind of nice. Unfortunately, that doesn't mean when the weather is 20 degrees you can just hop out of your brain and go for a walk, because the atmosphere is pretty much non-existent. What you will find, however, is lots and lots of carbon dioxide with 0 oxygen, meaning you can't breathe. And if you can't breathe, how will you survive? The only option then will be for humans to live inside a dome where there's oxygen. And if you want to go outside, you've got to put on your spacesuit. Isn't that like a prison? Honestly, Mars doesn't give us much to work with, and its atmosphere and temperature are more than enough to discard the idea of going to Mars. But not surprisingly, there's more. Unlike the Earth, which has an atmosphere that blocks all the bad radiation coming from the cosmos, Mars doesn't have anything that will protect its surface from cosmic radiation. Its atmosphere is much thinner, so there's a high risk of people dying from radiation diseases such as cancer. Sadly, cancer is not the only disease you risk getting if you happen to be a part of the 1 million people who will be traveling to Mars by 2029. The gravity on Mars is much lighter than Earth's, approximately about 0.375 that of Earth, which means a 180-pound person on Earth would weigh a scant 68 pounds on Mars. This may seem nice for people with lots of weight, but in the long term, the low gravity is very likely to wreak havoc on human health and even cause damage to human fertility, which, as you know, will endanger humanity. I mean, if people can't reproduce, how would humans repopulate Mars? Now that's scary. But while you're still thinking about that, you should know that just like Mother Earth can unleash hurricanes and tornadoes, Mother Mars periodically unleashes epic dust storms, which can sometimes cover as much as 1/4 of the planet. And worse is that those storms are so strong they can destroy equipment and materials. And what's the guarantee that pretty strong epic dust won't destroy the dome? And let's not forget that if you happen to breathe in the dust, you may just have some kind of respiratory disease. In essence, Mars is not safe, and like Elon Musk says, any little mistake can cost the life of a person. But let's say somehow the dome is strong enough to withstand radiation, epic dust storms, and the cold, meaning that one of the basic needs of man, which is shelter, has been provided for. But what about food? Can crops grow on Mars? The answer is no. As a result of Mars's extremely cold, thin air and sterilizing radiation, it would quickly kill any crops planted in the soil. So at first, food and water will have to be shipped from Earth to Mars every 2 years until the scientists on Mars figure out how to grow plants in a greenhouse on the dome. If you think food is quite expensive now, just wait until potato salad or bread has to be boosted out of Earth's gravity well, flown across the void, then gently deposited outside a Martian airlock. Food becomes very expensive and probably rationed until plants start growing in the greenhouse, as there aren't really lots of options when it comes to food on Mars. If you're a vegetarian, you'll probably be happy on Mars because the food will consist mostly of potatoes and greens. But if you eat meat, I'm sorry to say you'll have to replace meat with insects. Yes, get ready to eat some insect goulash with some potatoes on the side, but it shouldn't be all that bad, right? And there's even some good news. An Israeli company is currently trying to grow meat from cells, so hopefully before the 1 millionth crossing to Mars begins, their experiment will be successful and people will be able to eat meat on Mars. So as you can see, there are a lot of challenges associated with traveling to and living on Mars, and to a large extent, there's a high chance that humans may not survive it if anything goes wrong. I know the argument for colonizing Mars is so that we can prolong the survivability of humanity just in case something happens, such as the ozone layer shattering to pieces and the fiery sun melting Earth and everything in it. But there's also a possibility that if that does happen, Mars will melt as well. And even if Mars happens to survive, what's the guarantee that humans won't begin to destroy planet Mars through their activities the same way it's currently happening on Earth? Instead of thinking of colonizing Mars for the future of humanity, why don't we focus on making Earth a better place for humanity to survive for as long as possible? What are your thoughts? Let us know in the comment section down below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video. Cheers, until next time.